don't actually remember what he said to me when I picked up the phone, because pretty quickly I laid into him. I was yelling. Y'all, I cannot remember the last time I yelled at someone. I was yelling. I was saying unkind things. I was saying, I'm not even going to go on this retreat. I can't believe you would say that to me. Hi, y'all. Doc Martha here. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, and I have been working with children and families who've experienced trauma for the last 20 years and in schools for about the last 13. In an earlier video, I talked about rider off the horse behavior and how our brains can get us stuck in the there and then instead of the here and now. And today I'm going to give you 2 examples of that from my own life. When I talk to adults about rider off the horse moments, most adults are able to think of a child. When I'm working in educational settings, often teachers can think about students who throw objects, flip tables, threaten or actually hit people. When I'm talking to parents, they can think of small children who have an escalation around something, and maybe they get so mad they throw down their favorite toy, breaking their favorite toy. Obviously not a choice that they are making with their prefrontal cortex, but rather a moment where their limbic system has taken over and the best thing that they can think of to do is to throw something down. But the truth is, all of us have rider off the horse moments, grown-ups and children. The first story happened at the end of the shelter in place. So at the end of the shelter in place, my partner and I, Caitlin, decided to go to Costco. I know, now it seems a little bit silly, but at the time, that was what we wanted to do. Turned out a lot of people wanted to go to Costco, and so we were in the Costco. It was very crowded, and we were making our way through, and we got stuck in one of those aisles where someone is giving out samples of food. You know how people give out samples of food in grocery stores, and they only have like 8 samples out at a time, and those samples get taken up very quickly, and then everyone is standing around waiting for the next sample to come out of the toaster oven. This was the scenario. We didn't even want the sample, but we were behind other people with our cart, and so we're standing there, we're waiting patiently to move forward, and then from behind us, a voice says, "Come on now, move it along." And I had a bit of a moment. Did I mention this was the end of the shelter in place? So we had not been out in the public with lots of other people in a long time. I might actually have felt a little bit of anxiety just being in a room with lots of people. And then she said, "Let's keep it moving," and pushed her cart into the back of my partner's legs. Yes. Did I mention that my partner is blind? She is blind from birth, white cane, all of that. She cannot see this thing happening. She can't see it coming. Not that either one of us was expecting a cart to run into us, but this is what happened. And I turned around, and there was this older white lady with some pens and Post-its in her cart. And I turned around and I said, "Oh, you want to do this now?" Pushing up my sleeves. "Here with me?" And this woman, she sort of burbled backwards, which is good. It's good for her, but it's also good for me. Because I, Doc Martha, cannot be thrown down in a Costco. I don't know for sure what I would have done if she hadn't backed up. I mean, I don't think I would have hit her. I might have pushed the cart back though. Because in that moment, my prefrontal cortex was not online. I was not in charge of my behavior in a way that would have been reasonable in that moment. You know, was it okay for her to hit my partner with a cart? No, not. But neither is it a good idea for me to get into a physical altercation about that. Can you imagine the headlines? Child clinical psychologist beats up woman in Costco. All bad. Not good for me, not good for my licensure. But it was a clear rider off the horse moment. That was not me thinking it through. Now, when I tell that story, I think people are mostly like, "Yay, good job protecting your partner." A little bit. Now I'm going to tell you the second story. It's a little more recent and a little less clear-cut. Caitlin and I were going to do a weekend singing retreat, and we get the music the day before, and I see that I'm singing a much lower part, low soprano, than I usually sing. I sing high soprano. I like to sing the higher the better. And I look at the music, and I'm like, I don't even know if I can sing those notes. They're like under the line. So I reach out to the organizer by text. And I say, I know I'm not in the know about aka things. It was an a cappella thing. But you know Caitlin is the one that sings lower, right? So this was my sort of friendly attempt to say, this is not what I want to do. And the organizer said, but Caitlin has a wide, comfortable range, plus mezzo 1 is the trickiest part, and I know she can handle it. It's more that it's a tricky part, and Caitlin has the skills for it. Okay. So I have some feelings about that. I was actually on the phone with Caitlin while this was happening. Before I go on, I want to give you a little bit of context. That week, Caitlin's grandma had died. Now, it was a bit of a relief because she was suffering, she was not having a good quality of life, but it was still sad and stressful. I had traveled a lot for work, and so everything in the house felt like it was just behind. Our dog was recovering from surgery. Caitlin's friend was coming in from out of state to participate in this singing retreat with us, and I had never met her before, so I was a little worried that maybe I wasn't going to like her and we were going to spend the whole weekend together. And I had seen my plastic surgeon that day, which meant I had to take my clothes off, but also that I needed to talk about parts of my body I didn't really want to talk about. It was a stressful day. So then I say to him, is that why I'm not singing soprano? You don't think I can handle that? Now, my tone has changed from that first message, which was just like, hey, just checking in. Now I'm like, oh, this is how you think of me? And his response was, yep, smiling emoji face. First of all, I'm not much of an emoji person. I feel like they're very hard to read. You can never be exactly completely sure what other people mean by it unless it's someone you know closely and you often exchange these kinds of things. But that, in response to, you don't think I can handle my part? Wow. Now, wow. I had an immediate response to that. I was on the phone with Caitlin as these texts were coming in, so I was reading it out loud to her, and she was like, oh, what did he say? And I was like, I know, I can't believe it. And I quickly fired back a text, because that's what happens. I said, great, good to know. And then I said, I think you meant to be funny, but that was not funny to me at all. And it lets me know where I stand with you and this whole event. And Caitlin was like, you better screenshot that. And I said, I will. And then my phone started ringing. And it was him. And I was like, oh, he's calling me. And so she and I hung up. I don't actually remember what he said to me when I picked up the phone, because pretty quickly I laid into him. I was yelling. Y'all, I cannot remember the last time I yelled at someone. I was yelling. I was saying unkind things. I was saying, I'm not even going to go on this retreat. I can't believe you would say that to me. And that went on for a minute, maybe. And at the end of the minute, at the end of my yelling, he was silent. He was silent long enough that I noticed that my hands were trembling, that I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, that there was a little bit of sweat on my forehead. And then he said, I think maybe I should send you a screenshot from my phone. And I said, that's fine. I will send a screenshot from my phone too, right? Because I was still upset. And he sends me the screenshot, and I look at it, and almost immediately I can see that the order of texts on his phone is not the same as the order of texts on my phone. And that his yep, smiling, laughing face emoji was not in response to me saying, you don't think I can handle soprano, but instead was the first message, and then he goes on to explain himself. And then you see me losing my cool underneath there. This was a clear rider off the horse moment for me. Even if I didn't like the situation and what was going on, me yelling at him about it was likely not going to get me the result I wanted. And it's really because of Robert that we were able to come to a reasonable resolution and that I was able to go on the retreat at all. What did he do? First, he picked up the phone. So if you're having some kind of a conflict like this over text, make that phone call or try to find that person in 3D so that you can have that conversation. 2, he listened. Now, I don't know if he was listening and like taking notes about what I was saying, but he let me have my say. And when I was done, there was a bit of a pause. I don't know if he did that pause on purpose, but the pause allowed me to get a little more regulated, and maybe it even allowed him to get a little more regulated. 4th, he didn't attempt to answer any of my allegations. None of the things I was saying about him and his retreat and whatever I said that was unkind. Instead, he said, I think I know what went wrong. And he offered a solution. Let me send you a screenshot of my texts. Now, when he was done, I also said, please, will you also look at my screenshot so you can see what it looked like you were saying to me? And he did, which was kind. I realize this story doesn't paint me in the best light, and I'm also human, and I can give you a little bit of an explanation about what went on. This is our escalation diagram we use when working with educators and parents, and I will tell you that before any texting happened at all, I was already moving towards escalation. I told you about our week, how much stress we were under. And then getting the idea that I wasn't going to get the part that I like to sing. That was another bit of stressor. And that laughing, crying face emoji was the thing that really tipped my rider completely off my horse. Which might sound silly, but for a little more context, here we were going to do a thing that I'm not really that great at. I don't sing a cappella. My partner, Caitlin, is a fabulous singer, and I know that I am not in the same category with her. And I'm always a little worried about it when we sing together. And so when I said, so do you think I can't handle my part? That hurt my ego a little bit and probably tapped into old messages that I'm not good enough or that somehow I'm not worthy. There's no way that Robert could know that. The same way when you're standing in front of a child who's having an escalation that you don't understand, maybe tapped into something that gets them in the there and then instead of the here and now. I want to encourage all of us, when we find ourselves in conflict, to do at least some of the things that Robert did. Slow things down, help people feel seen and heard, and maybe rather than responding to everything that someone says when they're escalated, trying to find a solution. If you have great ideas on how to handle an escalation, please feel free to drop them in the comments. Take care, y'all.